Happy to have you here with me today talking about what moves blood sugars. If you guys are watching the replay, give me a hashtag replay in the comments. I know who's here when. And today, within the moving of blood sugars, I do want to talk about movement itself and why you might be doing it. So we're going to have some interaction today in the comment section. I hope that that is something that you're ready to do. So get your fingers ready for some typing and tapping. But looking at what moves blood sugars in general. For us living with insulin type 1 diabetes, that's two things. Insulin diabetes, goodness gracious. Insulin dependent diabetes, or for me, type 1. That's why I was getting mixed up. Because obviously you don't have to be type 1 to be insulin dependent, right? There are other types of diabetes where you might need insulin. But back to the main point, insulin. Insulin moves blood sugars, right? So that's the primary mover. That is the easiest way to move. It's the most straightforward. How do I make insulin? Or how do I? Wow, my head is just all over the place today, guys. Apologies. For what it's worth, I'm a little bit under the weather today. I didn't want to show up, but I'm here. I'm here because you guys are awesome. It's the real reason. So, as insulin is the mover of blood sugars, that's the first thing we learn about. It's the first medication we're given as diabetics when we are diagnosed. They don't give you vitamin C, they don't give you cinnamon, they don't give you anything else. They give you insulin because insulin is the primary mover of blood sugars, right? So it's critical that we understand the role of insulin, the different reasons we give insulin, the different ways to administer insulin. In a minute, wow. You have insulin pump versus MDI. You've got inhalable insulin, lots of different options. Even within shots, you've got intramuscular, you've got subcutaneous. So looking at what are the best ways to bring blood sugars down, insulin is one of the best. However, something that took me years to learn, there are other ways to bring blood sugars down. Now, you can't replace insulin if you are dependent on insulin. It's in the title, right? You're insulin dependent, like you need it to survive. But we can make the insulin work more efficiently through other areas of our lives, other habits, one of which is incorporating movement itself. So movement is a mover of blood sugars. So if you're trying to get your blood sugars to move, moving can be a very helpful way to do that. I actually just got back from a walk myself. Blood sugars were cruising a little higher than I would have liked. And I'll give you guys exact numbers. I was at 191. I sped through my lunch. It did not go well. Spiked as a result. Surprise, surprise, right? Did not give insulin enough time to work because I was rushing into a work meeting. And as a result, blood sugars did skyrocket from 105 to 191. Now, it's not unheard of, right? It happens to the best of us. But what I decided to do is go for a walk. And sure enough, I'm at 162 already. So movement can indeed move blood sugars. But what you might not have known, and this is what took me even longer to understand, is that different types of movements can cause different outcomes with our blood sugars. Now, the most common, I just went for a walk, blood sugars came down, right? Most people experience that. And a big reason for that is that glucose optimization outpaces glucose production. Said simply, you're using sugar and not producing it. And so and you're asking yourself, where would I produce sugar? There are reasons that your body might release sugar or glucose that has been stored, which is called glycogen. There we go. Gotta get the terms right. Glucagon, that's a different thing. But glycogen. So if I look at an anaerobic style workout, I know the terminology, we're getting a little bit towards the advanced side, but anaerobic, like weightlifting, and my muscles have stored glucose in the cells, and it might release that, or it would if I were to go lift weights. And that is just part of the natural process of the body. It's not like you're breaking anything outside of the muscle tissue, but that's intended when you're weightlifting. It's a lot of inside jokes that I'm telling today that I feel like only personal trainers and dietitians are going to get, but that's okay. The idea behind it is there are different movements physically that can cause different movements in your blood sugars. So some movements physically, like walking, might lower blood sugars, where some movements physically, like weightlifting, might raise blood sugar. So the different movements yield different movements, if that makes sense. Now, why I wanted to cover this today, A, is because it's It's happening in real time. I just got back from a walk. High blood sugars are no longer out of range, right? It worked. We're continuing to head down. In fact, let's take a look at it. Let's see where we're at. It might be leveling out, actually. Might have to take a little correction. But that was the step that I took before this live training with you guys. And so in understanding how we can manipulate blood sugars, it opens up a whole new realm of opportunity to correct blood sugars without stacking insulin, without um, you know overwhelming our insulin pumps with data inputs, without relying too heavily on just one of the many options that we have. And exercise isn't the only thing that's going to bring blood sugars down either. There's other great strategies that can bring blood sugars down. There's also a lot of other things that can push blood sugars up. And you might not know about all of them, which is why sometimes diabetes feels unpredictable because we don't know all of the things that cause blood sugars to fluctuate. The the hard to swallow pill, the difficult truth is that every blood sugar you've ever seen or will ever see has a reason attached to it, even though it doesn't feel like it all the time, right? Sometimes you might see blood sugars skyrocket after exercise, and you're like, what the heck? Matt said that exercise is supposed to lower my blood sugars. Well, yes, but there might be another variable at play that you might not be aware of yet, right? Just like I didn't know that exercise would help change my blood sugars initially. And then eventually I learned that, and now I can use that as a strategy. So we got another person in the chat right now. Thelma. Hey, what's up, Thelma? On YouTube says, this was a first for me. I also went for a walk. Blood sugar is 144. After the walk, it was 97. I was very happy. Way to go. I love that. Implementation. So understanding that there are ways to manipulate blood sugars can help us go a lot further in life with diabetes than just using one strategy. And honestly, overusing it. There's cases where we've taken insulin and probably didn't need to, right? Like the rage bolus. If you're not familiar with what that is, rage bolus is I have insulin on board. It's probably going to bring me back down, but my blood sugars are high. I'm impatient, so I'm just going to throw extra insulin at it. Not safe, not ideal, right? So in those circumstances, there might be another option. You might not even be aware of it yet. That's not to say that you are to blame, but you should keep your eye out for new strategies, new methods that might allow for you to manipulate blood sugars like this. And if you have no idea what those other methods look like, ask questions. You should be here on these lives typing up questions. Matt, what about this? Matt, what happens if I eat this food beforehand? Matt, what happens if I don't get a good night's sleep? Bring your questions to these calls. I show up here every single week, and there's a couple people who consistently add questions. I applaud you. You're here to learn. That's amazing. So do add questions in the comments. That's why there's a comment section that is open. Okay. That's what it's there for. Now, all that being said, I know that you guys probably have seen our recent podcast episodes. This last week was one of my clients who ran a half marathon, stayed 100% time in range, which kudos to you, Allie, if you're watching this. But 100% time in range aside, she stayed at essentially non-diabetic numbers the entire time for 13 miles, 13.1. Can't forget the 0.1. She stayed between 95 and 130 the entire time. That's crazy. Most people have a hard time staying between those numbers just on an average day. And she did it while running a half marathon. Now, if you missed that one, go back and watch it. It's on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, all that. The week before, though, I had a chance to interview another client of mine who, after a single call with me, was able to stay 100% time in range for her outrigger race. This is an hour and a half of paddling on the water in the ocean, and she nailed it. Absolutely crushed it. Now, keep in mind, hour and a half outrigger, that's a lot of activity nonstop. Half marathon, 13.1 miles, a lot of activity. You might not be in that boat, figuratively speaking, or literal. You might not be an endurance athlete, and that's okay. It's a slightly different equation for you as you're looking at your formulas, right? Understanding how do I keep blood sugar stable, the movers of my blood sugars, what's going to cause blood sugars to go up versus down. Believe it or not, there are reasons where a half marathon might not lead to a big drop, right? My triathlon sprint that I did, my blood sugars did spike at one point. I had to navigate that. There are reasons that blood sugars move, and the more of those reasons we are aware of, the better we can prepare for those outcomes and be able to adapt, to pivot in those moments, especially if you are somebody like me who tends to be more active, right? And again, you don't have to be an Olympic athlete to take advantage of these strategies. Literally, as actually right here, as Thelma mentioned in the comments on YouTube, went for a walk, took it from 144 to 97. Beautiful, beautiful execution of that and implementation of these strategies. But you have to actually use the things that you learn, right? Now, all that being said, because today has to be a little bit shorter, I actually have another client call, gonna hop on and help somebody else out today. But uh, because we've seen such incredible success with these clients that are endurance athletes, myself staying 100% time and range for every single endurance training session, all my triathlon workouts for like 4 months, 100% time and range every single time. There's a very specific formula that we use. We've actually created a new path that we've taken these clients through, our half marathon clients, our full marathon clients, our other triathlete clients, the outrigger canoe endurance racer clients. All these endurance athletes are essentially people who want to be active for more than just 30 minutes at a time, right? Your workouts or even playtime is an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours plus. There's a very specific formula, very specific strategy that has to be adopted in order to see stable blood sugars there. We talk about burn rates a lot, right? You probably heard me talk about this in the past. So burn rates, looking at how much of the glucose am I optimizing? And all of our bodies are different. So, I talk a lot about how many carbs I got to consume when I was training for my triathlon. It's essentially a fourth meal. It was amazing. I didn't have to dose for it at all. But that's going to differ person to person. One of my clients, 1/4 of the amount of carbs is what is required for her to see the exact same stable blood sugars. So it does have to be customized, right? But the big picture idea is that if we are burning glucose, we are going to have to replace that glucose at a very specific ratio. And if you're not replacing it, insulin adjustments have to be made. There's different ways to go about it, but the end result is all the same. We want stable blood sugars through exercise. And if you want stable blood sugars through exercise, you have to understand what moves blood sugars in the first place. And of course, beyond that, understanding that movement moves blood sugars, like movement itself, exercise, activity, right? It's the play on words. Movement moves blood sugars. So if you can understand that, you dive level deeper, a level deeper, a level deeper, you'll start to unwind the chaos that is type 1 diabetes, that is blood sugar management through exercise. Because if we're honest with ourselves, exercise and blood sugars is a very deep topic. It's very difficult. And one of the things that makes it so difficult is the volatility of blood sugars, where if you go for a run and you don't know what to expect, your blood sugars could plummet to a dangerous level, right? They could also spike. There's a lot of uncertainty if we don't have the proper safety rail set up initially. And then you have to go through a testing phase. Then you get through a customization phase where you find out what is true for you with these exercises. So, all that to say, obviously, I can't walk through each specific formula for every person on here because I don't know most of you. There's a couple people in here that I do actually recognize your names, your clients of mine, and we are working on these formulas. But we're going to open up something that's special that I think is going to be helpful for a select few people. Because I know, again, not everyone is an endurance athlete, but because right now in my life, I'm currently training for another triathlon. Crazy. And it's actually more intense. It's a longer distance. We are developing these formulas specific to endurance athletes or people who want to be active for longer periods of time. And because we have seen such incredible success already with our runners, our rowers, our triathletes, soccer, volleyball, baseball, basketball, all these people who want to play sports for more than 30 minutes at a time, we are opening it up once just to kind of see how it goes this next cohort because we want to continue delivering these results. And as such, we'll be working with you guys personally to get these set up to see how many other sports are in need of this to be set up as a customized formula. So if that's you, if you are anybody who wants to be active, again, does not have to be a marathon or a triathlon, anything like that. But it does include that as well. If you're someone who wants to be active or exercise for longer than 30 minutes at a time, we're going to call that endurance training. Some people are like, it has to be 2 hours to be endurance. Let's just hit the pause button for a second. If you'd like to be active for more than 30 minutes and blood sugars are not perfect already, let's talk, see if there's something that we might be able to help with, because these formulas so far have worked for every single person that they've been implemented with, especially with our endurance athletes. And that's why the last couple of weeks I had a unique pleasure of interviewing them and their 100% time in range, even the non-diabetic numbers. It still blows my mind that she was able to do that. But it also makes sense because she used the formula. So if you're somebody who is an endurance athlete, wants to be, or just likes the idea of being active for more than 30 minutes at a time with stable and predictable blood sugars, what I want you to do right now is type the word coach in the comments. This will let us know that you just want more info, right? That's all it is. Hey, I want more info. What's this all about? And we'll see if we can help. And if we're not the perfect fit for you, we'll point you in the right direction within our network or other resources we might have. All right. So understand big picture here. Movement moves blood sugars, but the variables are going to change each time, and it does need to be customized to you. Everyone has a blood sugar formula. I am certain about that. I've been coaching people for years on that principle alone, and it continues to deliver incredible results. But these formulas do need to be personalized. And as we look at endurance-based athletics, we want to see how we might be able to help this section of the diabetes population as well. All right, especially after our recent successes and my experience as well, this triathlon. So if that's something that would be interesting to you, type 1 diabetes and athletics, endurance training, stable blood sugars, we want to help you set up that formula so that you too can experience this level of stability and predictability. So drop the word coach if that's you. Be happy to see if we can help. And like I said, even if we're not the best fit, happy to point you in the right direction, set you up with some resources because we want to see you guys succeed. All right. So I got to take off. Hope this was helpful for you. Movement is the secret hack to manipulating your blood sugars. And if you want more predictability within movement and not just using it as a surface level strategy, let us know with the word coach. All right. Thanks for hanging out. Appreciate you guys every week hanging out here at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. And I'll see you guys next week with a hot new topic. So have a great one and keep up the fight.